Hello, sweet viewers. Annyeong. That means hi in Korean. I'm Christine from Kimbap TV, empowering you to live a happier and safer life, especially if you're a fellow domestic violence survivor. In this video, I'll share a personal bad habit that I am trying to overcome. When I was a little girl, I actually wasn't so little. Strangely, I was a lot bigger than the rest of my family members, and at school I was usually the tallest student in my class, towering over even the boys, especially the Asian ones for a while. Growing up, my grandma called me a giant and often hit my back, telling me I was too big. That made me feel ashamed of being different, and I developed a height complex. I've been subconsciously hunching over for most of my life, and throughout my on-camera career, it's become something that others have noticed and pointed out. Well, standing up straight and with confidence is important to me as a domestic violence survivor. So I'll share some ways that I'm trying to unlearn my bad habit and embrace this part of my identity. Let's get started. When I look back at family pictures, I notice that I literally stick out. I'm a head taller than everybody. My mom, my three aunts, and my grandparents. I used to dislike going to gatherings with relatives because there would always be a comment about how big I was. When I visit Korea, I'd never fit into the clothes at the stores because everything was too small. The sleeves always came up to like here, and the body was just too tight. I couldn't find shoes my size either, and I'd get that reaction, omona omona, from store owners, which means, oh my goodness. It made me so embarrassed. Just for reference, I've been a size 6 or 8 for most of my life. My shoe size varies from 8.5 to 10, depending on the brand. I'm 5'7.5", 5'8" on some measurements, and my weight usually fluctuates between 145 and 155. A quick Google search reveals to me that an average woman in the US is 5'4" and weighs around 160. But in Korea, an average woman is 5'4" and weighs 129 pounds. That pretty accurately defines the majority of my family, who thinks I'm a giant. When I got my first job out of college, I moved to Fort Myers, Florida. I had this boss there named Javier. He was one of the nicest bosses I ever had. I remember this one day he saw me and said, "Christine, do you realize that you slouch a little? You're not using your height to your full advantage." I was confused because up to this point, I never saw my height as a good thing. But he said, "Many people would love to be as tall as you. Embrace who you are and stand up with confidence." That little pep talk was the first time someone acknowledged something I didn't like about myself and told me it was actually something to be admired. I later got a mentor named Sharon, a famous on-air personality who was known for her confidence and sex appeal. She critiqued my earliest work as a reporter and told me that I looked frumpy in my cardigans and other loose-fitting clothing. She told me to sex it up and think Devil Wears Prada. So I watched that movie religiously, taking mental notes on what the main characters were wearing and how they composed themselves. One of the first things I noticed about Anne Hathaway's character was that before her transition, she slouched. Not dramatically, but in a way that reminded me of myself. She also looked down a lot, and you could tell that she lacked confidence, especially when compared to Meryl Streep's character. But after her transition, she made eye contact with lots more people, kept her chin up, and commanded a room when she walked into it. And her clothes were better fitted and helped her to feel more positive about herself. Meryl Streep's character also exuded confidence, and just by the way she sat and talked, you knew she was the boss. I took these notes to heart and reminded myself every time I was rushing out to film a story and every time I was recording a stand-up or an on-camera report to channel Devil Wears Prada. And sure enough, I could see a big difference in my work samples, and so could my mentors and future employers. And finally, as I moved from city to city and was often the only Asian or Korean on-air personality in that particular area, I was asked to MC or host a lot of big events, galas, Asian festivals, you name it, and I was probably there. Also, there were many dignitaries, beauty pageant winners, mayors, presidents of big successful companies. They were all alongside me making speeches or giving out awards to generally shyer individuals. So I observed a lot of contrasts and saw firsthand how these people who carried with them some important title walked around with a different air of confidence. They stood up straight, wore well thought out clothes, and presented themselves in a very polished way. I tried to implement a similar vibe when I had to be in public for work-related functions. As a domestic violence survivor, I'm in the process of rebuilding my confidence and my self-esteem. I often catch myself hunching over again when I'm anchoring the news, hitting golf balls at the driving range, or going on my neighborhood walks. As I become aware, I try to roll my shoulders and feel my back straightening out. It still feels somewhat uncomfortable for me, but I imagine someone lifting me up by a string on the top of my head, kind of like they would to a puppet. How would my body align if I were to be picked up like that? Also, I don't do enough of this, but yoga helps me to stretch in ways that help my posture. My favorite YouTube channel for that is Yoga with Adrian. It's really hard to fix a lifelong bad habit, but I am continuing to take it day by day. I hope my story helps you to feel like you're not alone if you also have some things you're trying to work on, like slouching. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Take great care of yourselves, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye.